Hi, welcome to Anaprime Recap. You have your dreams invaded by weird creatures and you are trapped in a kind of demonic matrix. Our psychedelic adventure today takes place in the Paprika anime. Dr. Chiba is a psychotherapist responsible for leading research on the DC Mini, a powerful device created to allow psychiatrists to access and manipulate the dreams of their patients. The device was developed by Dr. Tokita, whose idea was to allow psychoanalysts to more effectively help patients heal from trauma, phobias and obsessions. One of the first patients to be treated with the help of the DC Mini was Detective Konakawa, who intended to treat his anxiety, resulting from a violent case he had been unable to solve. The detective's dream begins with a circus show. The man walks through the audience observing everything around him. Apparently, he's looking for someone. Suddenly, a spotlight is pointed towards him. The presenter asks the audience to watch Konakawa and, in the blink of an eye, the man appears on stage, trapped in a cage. As the audience applauded the show, several characters with faces identical to the detective came out of the crowd and tried to capture him. The dream continues, the floor below Konakawa breaks down and he falls somewhere else. A woman hanging on a trapeze asks him to hold her hand. Seconds later, the detective is teleported to a scene from the movie Tarzan, swinging from a vine and with the same woman in his arms. Konakawa tries to understand what is happening. But there's no time for that. He keeps getting sent to scenes from different movies. This time, he is being strangled by a mysterious man. The young woman again appears and hits the aggressor's head with a suitcase. Now they are sent to another place. The detective spots the man who was chasing him in the previous scenes and goes after him, until he arrives at the crime scene, the same that Konakawa was unable to solve. At the end of the hall, the man is running away. The detective tries to go after him, but the floor and walls fall apart around him and he falls into the abyss. When he wakes up, he sees that woman beside him. She explains that everything that happened was a projection from Konakawa's subconscious, and through the DC Mini, she could interfere with his dreams. She also reveals that, when the device is complete, it will be possible to enter other people's dreams even when they are awake. The therapist gets up to leave and the detective asks her when they can see each other again. She hands over a card containing the website where Konakawa would be able to contact her, and finally introduces herself as Paprika. Dr. Chiba arrives at the laboratory where the device was developed. In the elevator, she finds Tokita who, due to being overweight, needs the doctor's help to get out of the elevator. While trying to get out of there, the inventor informs Chiba that one of the 3 DC Mini prototypes has been stolen, and since Tokita had not yet programmed the device's access controls, the person who stole it could connect to a psychotherapy machine at any moment and enter the minds connected to that machine. Both meet with the head of the research team and walk to the president's office, who makes it clear that he disapproves of the DC Mini's existence and use, claiming that dreams are a sacred haven and should not be invaded. During the conversation, Mr. Shima begins to say things that make no sense. Everyone in the room is confused observing that situation, until he loses control and leaves through the corridors of the research center. The scientist jumps through one of the windows, but he ends up falling on a tree, located just below. He survives, but ends up unconscious. During his hospitalization, the doctors monitor his dream, in which a parade full of bizarre creatures is taking place. According to Dr. Chiba, that was another patient's dream and was projected into Mr. Shima's subconscious by the terrorist who stole the DC Mini. Amidst all those freaks, there was a Japanese doll that caught the attention of the medical staff for reciting strange poetry. The doctors then turned their attention to the doll that had a weird face. Tokita immediately realizes that this is Himuro, his assistant, who hadn't shown up at the lab in the last few days. Suspicious that Himuro could be responsible for the theft of the DC Mini, Tokita, Chiba and Osanai head towards his apartment. They ring the doorbell, but no one answers. Using some tools, Tokita manages to open the door. Inside, the doctors are faced with hundreds of macabre dolls and books scattered everywhere. Searching Himuro's room, Dr. Chiba finds a picture of the boy, where he is dressed as a geisha, very similar to the doll found in Shima's dream. Chiba senses that something is watching her from inside the closet and goes there to find out what it is. She finds a ladder leading to the basement and has the bright idea of going down to investigate. She follows the scribbled hallway and arrives at an amusement park. There the doctor spots the cursed doll on a train and tries to follow it. Chiba finds the geisha sitting at the entrance of the Ferris wheel, but when she goes after it, the woman wakes up from the dream and is about to jump off the balcony of Himuro's room. Luckily, she was saved by her coworker, Dr. Osanai. After leaving the apartment, the 3 concluded that Himuro was the one who stole the DC Mini. Back in Shima's dream, Paprika appears and struggles to wake him up. Himuro is also there. The girl tries to catch him, but the psychopath manages to escape. In the meantime, the scientist wakes up. To awaken him from the dream, Paprika fuses with his body and causes him to inflate until he bursts. Finally, the man regains consciousness and informs Chiba that within the dream, he felt he could control the entire world. Could this be the intent of the person who stole the DC Mini? Shima gets a call from Detective Konakawa, a friend of his since college. He thanks him for the experience he had using the device, and the scientist asks him not to tell anyone about it. Konakawa tries again to contact Paprika. To do so, he accesses the website described in the card delivered by the psychotherapist. As he does so, he is greeted by two waiters who claim to be waiting for him. Walking through the bar, he finds the girl. They talk about their past. Paprika walks away and the detective goes after her. As he walks through the door, he comes across several movie theaters, each showing a different movie. The doctor invites him to watch one of those movies, but apparently the man has some trauma related to the seventh art. At the Center for Research in Psychiatry, other researchers are going crazy. They are no longer able to distinguish dreams from reality and are marching all over the lab talking nonsense, just like Mr. Shima had done. Seeing the number of victims of the DC Mini increasing, the president of the foundation decides to stop the development of the device and ban the use of psychotherapy machines. In his laboratory, Tokita continues with the idea of improving his invention. Dr. Chiba is passing by and notices that the doll drawn on her colleague's shirt is the same one she saw during the dream she had at Himuro's house. Together they go to the amusement park where that drawing was taken from. Chiba suspects that Tokita's assistant may be hiding there. Again at the entrance of the Ferris wheel, the woman spots the geisha doll. She carefully heads towards it, but before she can reach the doll, something happens. Disturbed by the nightmare he was trapped in, Himuro free falls. He breaks the glass ceiling and falls in front of Chiba and Tokita. By this time, the DC Mini was already fused in his head. After witnessing this bizarre event, the two scientists came to believe that Himuro hadn't stolen the device, he was probably just a victim. To try to help his friend out of that nightmare, Dr. Tokita bonds with the DC Mini and is transported to that insane parade. Inside, he is greeted by hundreds of macabre dolls. At this moment, he realizes that dreadful geisha who was behind all the chaos was not Himuro. In police officer Konakawa's dream, the situation is repeated. He is again in a circus show, where he ends up trapped in a cage. But this time, when he manages to escape, he ends up in an elevator along with Paprika. The girl takes him to different floors, and on each of them, a new movie was happening, in which the detective was the protagonist. They end up at the 17th floor, where a special session was taking place. Konakawa tries again to catch the killer, but the same scenario repeats itself. When he goes back to the moment of the victim's death, the detective realizes that he was the shooter and the victim was himself. Totally bizarre. Paprika appears in the movie theater watching all that. The detective joins her and the two talk about technical details related to film production and shooting. The girl questions Konakawa about his death mystery. She wanted to know why the man killed himself. The detective reveals that he had never thought of taking his own life, and Paprika suggests that the victim could be someone very similar to him, not the detective himself. At that moment, the room is invaded by the creatures of the parade. The therapist spots Tokita in the crowd and tries to bring him back to consciousness, but is unsuccessful. The boy goes through the wall and disappears. Paprika looks back and sees that Konakawa is about to give in to that madness. Along with Mr. Shima, Chiba goes to the lab and bonds with the DC Mini to save her friends, but asks her boss that if anything goes wrong, he will wake her up immediately. Upon entering the world of dreams, the psychotherapist assumes her alter ego, Paprika. In this way, she finds a crack in the dream and goes in to investigate. The place appeared to be completely abandoned. Inside, she finds thousands of bizarre dolls with Tokita's face and a giant statue of her lab colleague, Dr. Osanai. As in the dream world, everything is possible. Paprika transforms into a fairy in order to better investigate the place. She enters through a sewer opening and makes her way until she finds a disgusting spot where tree roots were growing. She flies higher to identify what it is and is upset to realize that this is Himuro's body. The boy was being held captive in his own dream. Suddenly, those roots come to life and start chasing Paprika. The girl tries to escape and, when she flies a little higher, she comes across the face of the president of the foundation carved into the trunk of the tree, which was controlling those roots that were trying to kill her. Paprika tries to run away, but when she sees that she won't be able to escape, she asks Mr. Shima to wake up Dr. Chiba. The woman regains her consciousness and is gripped by despair. She and Dr. Shima goes to talk to Mr. Inui. In the mansion's greenhouse, the president assumes he stole the device to prevent that sacred haven from being destroyed by technology. Although his real motivation for the theft was to tarnish the DC Mini's reputation so that its use would not be sanctioned by the government and thus protect the dream world. The man ended up being corrupted by the power he received from using the device. In that world, Inui could do whatever he wanted, including walking again. He gets up from his wheelchair and gigantic roots have sprouted in place of his legs. Calling himself the Guardian of Dreams, he says his duty is to exterminate Paprika. At that moment, Chiba disappears and gives way to her alter ego. Next to her is Osanai. That means the doctor had been tricked, she still hasn't woken up from that nightmare. In the real world, Dr. Shima tries at all costs to wake Chiba, but despite all his efforts, the woman remains trapped in the dream world. There, she is being pursued by the mad president. The therapist fuses with a sphinx and tries to escape, but Osanai hits her with a spear. She falls into the sea and takes the form of a mermaid, yet Inui manages to capture her, transforming himself into a disturbing creature, a kind of demonic whale, and swallows the girl. Paprika is thrown into that psychedelic parade, led by the president and his assistant, Osanai. She takes the form of the character Pinocchio. From a distance, the girl sees another version of her and tries to warn her that this is a trap. Paprika even tries to escape, but ends up being captured. The girl wakes up with butterfly wings and is pinned to a table by giant pins. Another character who also entered that collective dream was Detective Konakawa. He's back at the dream bar, drinking and talking to the waiters about the movies he's already produced. It tells the story of the first movie he shot together with his high school friend. Konakawa had given up on the film, abandoning it halfway through so his friend could finish it. Due to an illness, this friend ended up passing away. While lamenting his past, the detective realizes that the guy he was chasing in his dreams was his late friend. When looking to the side, he sees that same man, who runs away again. Konakawa goes after him and finds himself once again in a corridor full of movie theaters. One of the movies catches his eye, he enters the room, and spots Osanai and Paprika on the screen. The man is declaring himself, in the sickest way possible, to Paprika. He puts his hand under the woman's skin, ripping it open and revealing her true identity. He says he's in love with Chiba just the way she is. When he finally manages to have the woman of his dreams in his arms, President Inui appears as an extension of his body and is ready to kill him with his wicked roots. Osanai tries to stop him. While the villains discuss the doctor's fate, Detective Konakawa manages to enter the movie and save Paprika, even better, Chiba. He takes the woman and flees that dark place. Dr. Shima manages to detect them through the monitor, and he instructs Konakawa to go back to his dream. And so, he relives every movie he's ever been through. First, he embodies the character of Tarzan. Afterwards, they are sent to an action movie, but this time, the detective manages to get rid of his attacker, who in this case was Osanai. He chases him to the scene of the crime, and just as the man is about to flee, Konakawa shoots him in the back. The movie ends with the detective holding Chiba in his arms. The woman wakes up from the dream scared and, at the same time, relieved to have managed to get out of that dark place alive. While talking to Mr. Shima, a bloody hand appears on the glass outside the room. Chiba gets up and as she walks towards the door, she finds the ghost of Dr. Osanai. He is about to die and falls into the woman's lap. At that moment, his body disappears. In the Inui's mansion, the real Osanai also dies shot in the back and begins to be swallowed by a hole that opens in the ground. The president goes after him, because his only hope is to merge with that man's body to get rid of the wheelchair. The two sink into the ground, along with the entire room, which would be a dream black hole. Chiba and Shima leave the lab in search of reinforcements. When they were crossing from one side of the building to the other, they find that creepy doll, Konakawa, is in his office and has just woken up from his dream. He closes the website where he was able to connect to Paprika, but when he looks out the window, he sees all those dark dream creatures parading down the street. The entire city stops to watch that freak show. Gradually, the people are taken by madness and turn into freaks to join the parade. Apparently, the real world is already mixing with the dream world. There is no escape. Wherever you go, there will be thousands of those monsters. Konakawa, paralyzed at the sight of that situation and unable to understand, he wonders if this is the real world or if he is still dreaming. It is at this moment that the waiters appear and inform the detective that the whole world is dreaming. The researchers continue their flight. The killer doll still hasn't given up chasing them. She destroys the entire floor they were trying to escape, laughing in an evil way. The entire floor was destroyed before the doctor could get through. Chiba tries to help Chima, but she doesn't have enough strength. When Dr. Shima was about to fall to his death, Paprika appears and helps save herself and the doctor as well. The two characters, despite being the same person, have such different characteristics and personality traits that they ended up completely dissociating. The three escape and teleport using the TV as a portal. The demon geisha follows them, but ends up being bombed by Tokita, who is in the body of a giant robot. Chiba leaves Paprika and Dr. Shima, and heads towards Tokita. She tries to bring him back to consciousness, but fails miserably. Instead, the man captures the woman and devours her. Paprika and Shima arrive at the place that connects the dream to reality. From the top of a building, Konakawa and the waiters watch that black hole swallowing the entire city. Tokita appears and runs towards Paprika. His intention is to devour her, but the waiters are faster and stop him, covering his vision. Chiba's ghost appears and helps Tokita separate from the building. Then the woman hugs him and disappears. Unexpectedly, a huge monster emerges from the black hole. Shima soon recognizes President Inui, even though he has that grotesque appearance. The man has merged with Osanai and is now able to stand and walk on his own 2 feet. This could be a beautiful story of overcoming, but the truth is that, if it weren't for Paprika, the dark old man would destroy the entire planet. The girl has the idea of merging with Dr. Tokita and Dr. Chiba. Together, the 3 give birth to a giant baby that feeds on all that darkness. The more he feeds, the more his body grows. The girl approaches that monster who, at the same time, tries to exterminate her. What he didn't count on was that the girl would start to feed on his body. Gradually, the young woman devours every part of him. As the monster is swallowed, the girl grows and reveals her shape. After feeding on all that dark dream, Chiba disappears and all the victims of the DC Mini wake up from the dream. Fortunately, everyone makes it out of that nightmare alive. Technology has almost destroyed all of humanity. What do you think of Dr. Tokita's invention? Could humans handle this powerful device without the world collapsing? So what did you think of this anime? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, like and subscribe for more anime recaps. See you next time.